Good morning, welcome to Walking Boxing. It is Tuesday, August 27th, 2024, and it is a very windy day. It's funny here, it's normally it can be beautiful one day and very ordinary the next. That is just the Victorian weather, unfortunately. So yesterday we had the press conference for tomorrow night's Nikita Tszyu Mazoudier fight, and as expected it was very entertaining. Whoa, geez, apologies about that if the wind's coming through the microphone, but yeah, it's very difficult at the moment, but anyway, we'll soldier on. But yeah, so the press conference was yesterday. As I said, as expected, there was fireworks, there were insults, there were some, let's just say, some weird comments made. But I thought, over and above, I think it did its, it fulfilled its purpose, and that is to get us all talking about it, get us all rolled up. Last night on Talking Boxing, there was a couple of people who said, "Well, I'm convinced I'm going to buy the card." So, what is it, $70? So it's not too late to get it. I for one think it's a really strong card. I think I said yesterday I would have preferred to have the Brandon Grush and Jackson Murray fight on the card, although that would have been a ripper. But apparently Brendan Grush had an injury, and again it would have been great to have Amber Amelia up against Jasmine Parr. But it is what it is. Overall, again, I think it's very solid. But the press conference itself, let's just say, well, the undercard fighters I thought were good. You could tell they were a little bit bored, because normally what happens at these press conferences, it's all about the two main fights, or in this case probably the three main fights. But as good as the Pampalone and Connor Wallace fight is, you can tell it's still been sort of just forgotten about a little bit, just with the two other fights on the card. But they all got their 30 seconds each on the microphone, and at this stage they'd be a little bit over the whole thing. They'd be obviously starting to cut weight. They'd be a little bit just on the edge, starting to get the game face on. So I'm sure they would have been really impressed to go all the way to the. I'm assuming it was at the theatre where they did it. Actually, I think it was the ICC theatre. And then to get their 30 seconds and then have to sit there for another 45 minutes while everyone else had their say, and then get out of there. But that's the job. That's what you get paid to do. So I'm sure they would have had to grin and bear it. But I thought they all spoke pretty well, the undercard fighters. I particularly like Connor Wallace. I think he's great value. Really brings the energy to a fight. Pampalone, I thought, spoke very well as well. But yeah, very impressed with both those guys, and I think that could be the fight of the night. I really do. I think two really world-class skilled fighters, and I think they will really put on a good show tomorrow night. Pampalone, very skilled. Connor Wallace has got all the tools. He's also got that big left hand, so I think we're going to have fireworks there. On to the two main fights. So we started with Tommy Brown and Michael Zerafa. Well, it started off pretty well. We had Ben Damon, I think, did a really good job also, by the way. He always seems to ask the right questions, and just the type of questions that gets the response that the audience are after, and maybe leads to other things, which is what we saw yesterday. Because at the start, Tommy Brown, very well spoken. I thought he spoke facts. You could tell he wasn't very impressed that he had pretty much been forgotten in the whole thing. It was all about Michael Zerafa and the potential fights with the Tszyu brothers. He made a point, a real point, of saying, "Look, I've been training for 8 weeks. It's all been about Michael Zerafa versus the Tszyus." You could tell in his voice that he was definitely pissed about it, and you could probably don't blame him. Although I think Michael Zerafa probably quite rightly pointed out, and it probably did sting a little bit, that, mate, you're the opponent, so get used to it. So we'll get over it. Only Michael Zerafa could probably say it like that, but it got off to a pretty good start, and I thought, as I said, Tommy spoke really, really well. And then I can't remember what actually got us going, but Ben Damon got Michael Zerafa involved, and then off we went. And then there was back and forth. I don't think Michael Zerafa had really even had a chance to talk or do his own interview before all hell broke loose, but then the insults started flying, and look, they both had points. They both had points. I think Tommy Brown, again, was pissed off about the 8-week camp and no real mention of his involvement in the event. Michael Zerafa pointed out that, mate or buddy, you're the opponent. That's just the way it rolls. Tommy Brown said, well, I don't particularly like Michael. He quit in Las Vegas, I think he actually said, and you could really tell that struck a nerve with Michael, who you could just see was just itching to have his say. Then I think Michael came back with, well, the fight is your fault, because I think Tommy Brown must have started to rattle off his resume. Of course, Michael Zerafa said, well, who of them did you beat? Were they featherweights or lightweights or something? And then, of course, Tommy Brown said, well, all the opponents you fought, the good opponents you say you fought, you haven't beaten any of them either. It was quite entertaining. I'm not going to go sort of word for word, but it was entertaining. But then, whatever happened has happened. One said, well, do you want to go? I'll take you outside. And the other one said, all right, I'll take you right now. And then they were up, and I think, I'm pretty sure it was George Rose had to quickly jump up. Someone had to. I don't think it was Ben Damon, because he was on the far side of the stage. But I think it must have been George Rose, who had to act very, very quickly to get up, because I got no doubt there would have been a real altercation there, because they weren't happy at all. And it was good to see, I think, that bit of fire from Tommy Brown. He's coming to win. Michael Zerafa shrugged it off. You could see he was a little bit almost insulted that Tommy Brown would have the nerve to stand up to him and try and argue with him. It was entertaining, and I for one welcomed it. I thought it really just maybe got a little bit more spite and energy into the event that maybe wasn't there before, because let's face it, I think when it comes to the Tommy Brown and Michael Zerafa fight, we're all pretty much, oh yeah, well, okay, here we go. We'll just put him on the card, get him an easy win, and we'll just move on, and we'll just focus on the key to this fight, and probably a bit more of Conor Wallace and Pampalone. But I think at least it injected a little bit of life into it. Does it change the result? Absolutely not. I think Michael Zerafa wins the fight very, very easily. I hope Tommy Brown brings it tomorrow night. I hope he fights as good as he spoke yesterday. The one thing I didn't like though, and I spoke about this quickly last night on Talking Boxing, when they sat down, it's good to go back and forth, but I wasn't really happy with the way Michael went about it afterwards. Lots of F-bombs dropped. There were apparently a lot of women and children in the crowd, and I'm sure they're probably used to it these days, but I just think when you're a professional sportsman, I understand that we get excited and the adrenaline rush, and he was genuinely pissed. You could see that. He was genuinely taken aback and fired up, and I totally understand that. But I just think in those situations, you've got to have a level of control where you can sit down, take a breath, refocus, recalibrate, and get back to being the professional sportsman that you are. And I just think he lost it. It was okay to keep with the back and forth, but I just thought it just wasn't a good look, if you ask me. Just my opinion. Again, I'm probably getting a little bit old-fashioned, but I just don't like it. Again, I understand that things get very emotional and they get worked up, and there might be the one here or there, but when it was pretty much a couple of minutes of just every second word was the F-bomb, I just don't think it was a good look. But anyway, that's just my opinion. I'll be interested to see what you think, whether you think it's all good and all good in love and war and everything else, or maybe that they should pull their heads in a bit. Look, I've said it in the past before, I'm really surprised. I'm not sure how it all works behind closed doors with the promoters and networks and that sort of stuff, but when you're on live TV, it was on Main Event It was on the Facebook channels of all the promoters and everyone concerned, so it was No Limit main event. I think a couple others might have had it as well. But when you're live on a massive promotion like that, I would think there's got to be, or there could be, some sort of code of conduct signed where the promoters are saying, hey, and main event are saying, hey, look, this is our brand, this is our business, this is what we're trying to bring. We're trying to have somewhat of a family-friendly type of event here, trying to give boxing a little bit better image. We won't put up with those types of things. No dramas with a bit of push and shove, the argy-bargy, the insults back and forth, but I just think they've got to have maybe have some sort of code of conduct where they just tell the boys, hey, look, we will accept things up to a certain point, and then you've really got to toe the line. Because at the end of the day, they are representing No Limit, and they're representing main event boxing and themselves, by the way. So anyway, just my 2 cents. On to the main event. After the Brown and Zerafa little spat, it was probably going to be hard to live up to that, but I thought both guys spoke really, really well. Very respectful of each other. I think the both type of guys where the old-fashioned type of fighters where they're not really stressed about all the insults and the push and shove and everything else, especially Nikita. He's a really weird sort of guy, isn't he? But he's a lovable type of guy. But Kyle Mazoudier, I'm a big rap for Kyle Mazoudier. I think that he's class. Yes, he, in his words, just wants to punch Nikita's head in. Look, that's fine, but that's the way you go about it. Okay, maybe there's people out there that say, well, no, you need all the fireworks like we got with Michael Zerafa and Tommy Brown because that's what sells the fight. Yeah, I don't know. I suppose we can all argue about it, but for an old-fashioned type of guy like me, I really like that both guys spoke really well. Okay, Nikita, probably some of his comments make you raise your eyebrows every now and then, but that's just him. He's a very quirky guy. But I thought, yeah, as I said, both guys got their points across very well. They were respectful towards each other. You could still see the fire in the eyes. They really wanted to get hold of each other, but I think they really showed us the way you go about it. So all over, I thought it was just a good, solid press conference to really get people's appetite to whet for tomorrow night. And I think that I think the viewership will be pretty good. I really do. And I just think overall, the way they've promoted it with the marketing and everything else, I think they've really stepped up. They really have No Limit, and they've backed it up with a really solid card, which is, end of the day, which is what all the fans really want. Just one more thing on. We speak a lot about Michael Zerafa here, I suppose, but we spoke about it a little bit last night about. With him obviously wanting probably Nikita more realistically than Tim, but outside of Nikita, who again I said yesterday has only had the 9 fights, this will be his 10th. I think it might be a tad early for Nikita to be looking at Michael, but if it's not him, then who else on the domestic scene could step up and maybe be the next fighter that could step in and fight Michael Zerafa, because he's very adamant and vocal about fighting the Tszyu. Well, who are some of the guys that maybe he could fight instead that we would probably prefer to see, and probably a little bit more realistic for him? We spoke a little bit again last night, and I think Joel Kamakayo really springs to mind. I think he would be a really good matchup for Michael. I don't think Michael would probably fancy that. I think he'd turn his nose up. They were stablemates at one stage, and I almost think he sees Joel Kamakayo as a little bit of an understudy. So I'm not sure he'd think that was a big enough fight. The Isaac Hardman rematch sort of has some appeal, but of course Isaac's coming off a loss and there hasn't really been much said about him since. So I'm not quite sure what happens there. There's maybe some light middleweights that might go up. Ben Mahoney, I think, would be a good fight, but he's in limbo at the moment. I think he was supposed to fight on the Wildfighter card in the Premier Boxing Series, but he's not on that card anymore. So again, I'm not quite sure what's happening with him. But the one that really stands out for me, and it was pointed out last night and made me think last night, wow, you want to fight Nikita after 9 fights? How about you go and fight someone like Matteo Tapia? A big, solid 160-pound fighter, world-class fighter. The only thing, of course, going against that is the fact that Matteo Tapia probably isn't the most well-known fighter. He has had I think he's had a couple of fights now in the States. He's on Tszyu's card in Florida, which will be great against the guy that actually stopped Isaac Harbin. So that'll be a really good fight. Was it Kvedra, whatever his name was? But that fight, I was thinking last night, rather than, again, I understand the appeal of going for Nikita and by association Tim, but if you want a really solid fight that would really appeal to Australian fans and really get them worked up and would be a really solid main event on a pay-per-view card, I think Michael Zerafa and Matteo Tapia would be a ripper. Now, I've got a feeling they're both on separate courses. Michael's now has this fascination with the Tszyu, and that's fine. That's where the money is and maybe the more exposure. But if he's serious about getting his boxing career back on track in a serious way, I think it's someone like Matteo Tapia that is the right fighter above Nikita Tszyu. Nikita Tszyu, this fight tomorrow night is for a ranking in the top 15 rankings in one of the organisations. That's sort of about it. That's what you're fighting for. I understand that's a big play in it, but I think if you're after that credibility and a big Aussie fight to really get back into the mainstream, it's someone like Matteo Tapia. But anyway, I've got a feeling I still know which way Hugh will want to go. Of course, the Nikita fight to him makes more sense than a real risky fight with a real legitimate 160-pounder in Matteo Tapia. But anyway, it just got me thinking, who would you like to see him fight if it's not Nikita? Who would you like to see Nikita fight if it's not Michael Zerafa? Plenty of options out there anyway. But guys, have a great day. Let us know your thoughts and we'll catch you tomorrow.